Today we're looking at the fraud-filled week. It wasn't a good one for Nigeria last week, but we will continue that conversation and see how it goes. Mathias, Tsado, policy analyst, is joining me here on the show. All right, Mathias, welcome to the program and thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Good to be back.
Good to be back too. That's good to have you, rather. You know, where do we start from? My intro, I did give an elaborate intro in terms of what happened throughout last week for Nigeria. So it was a fraud-filled week for us. From one story, global attention. From one story to the other was a fraud-filled week. I tried to do some analysis on Friday, but I just said, no, I shouldn't just allow it slide because there are a lot of facets to this. The supposed entrepreneur, high-profile one. You know, I saw a lot of things on Twitter. Yes, Invictus. You know, I saw a lot of things on Twitter last week. Some cracked my ribs, actually, because, you know, sometimes Nigerians are very funny people. In the midst of such a huge challenge of problems, you see some kind of, you know, perhaps some kind of comedy. In fact, someone said on Twitter, these are the aspire to acquire, perspire people, you know, that at the end they come to encourage people, but they, you know, allegedly doing some other things. That's so right. From his arrest to the close to 77 Nigerians, to Dynamics Intelligence as is leaving Nigeria, to Jumia's internal crisis, Jumia's fraud based on Nigerians, you know, misappropriating orders and increasing order volume. What comes to mind with that fraud-filled week? It wasn't a good one for Nigeria, was it?
It wasn't. And, yeah, you see, there are quite a lot of things that bother around Nigeria at the moment. Right from when the ministers were appointed or were nominated, you saw what's greeted that space. We had a lot of people who had, in fact, I'm sure you saw those people when Nigerians were making fun of it, that the list was supposed to be the one that was supposed to go to EFCC, not ministerial. And so it's a bundle of a lot of things. We have a culture that is gradually becoming acceptable in this country, that make it anyhow. Once you can make it anyhow, come out and just come on, display your wealth, and the society will celebrate you. Nobody bothers to check on the backgrounds of what you did or what you are doing or what you are into. You have a country that is highly monetized. Everything you want to do in Nigeria, it is in terms of Naira and Kobo. And so everybody is just looking for how to get this money. And in the process of trying to get this money by all means, we are damaging ourselves, damaging our reputation, damaging the reputation of the country. And to crown it up, then the leadership of the country now comes up and begin to give people who we thought would have been investigating, who thought would have been under one kind of detention or the other, or house restriction. We're now having these people being celebrated as the next leaders of the country in terms of you know, political this thing. So I think that the brand Nigeria has been terribly damaged, and the brand chief executive, which is the president of the country, now seem to have lost the battle to whatever happens. I have become the president, I have won the election, whatever happens at the end of the day, let it be that I would be recognized as the president of the country. When I saw the message from the chairman of Dynamics Intelligence, I was taken aback. This is a call for a national shutdown of all blue chips companies in Nigeria. Do you know the implication of such kind of statement coming from somebody of his caliber? As little as my company is, if I start screaming out now and said the whole nation is fraudulent, the people in this country are fraudulent, and what have you, it will affect my cycle. It will affect my immediate cycle. Talk less of this kind of person. But here we are. There's no need we continue to cry over the spilled milk. What can we do?
Okay, we'll come to what can we do in a bit, because there are a lot of facets to it. Taiwo Oyedele, the PwC tax, West Africa tax partner, is joining me right now from Lagos via Skype. Mr. Oyedele, good to have you on the program, and good Monday morning.
Good morning to you.
Yes, Mr. Oyedele, I do know that PwC sees a lot of things, and for your company, you interact a lot with, you know, high-profile companies around the world. You also have a lot of professionals here. With a fraud-filled week, at least for last week, in the last 1 week, because Nigeria is still basking in the euphoria of this negative news, the depletion of the Nigerian brand, the depletion of the Nigerian image. What's your own view about that? On Friday, I tried to assess or do some kind of analysis, and I did also say on the program that you don't use about 80 or close to 80 Nigerians to judge the rest of us, close to 201 million people. I did say on the program, I'm not a fraudster. I work hard, and I also know a lot of Nigerians work hard. You work hard. Mathias here is working hard. In fact, it was a former presidential candidate too. So what is in a Nigerian name, this Nigerian brand and image? And how did you take the news?
Yeah, indeed. Very, very sad news, indeed. But to be honest, I don't see any country in the world where you wait for the entire population to do something wrong before you can paint the whole country with the same brush. So when we say, for example, that in the Emiratis are honest, doesn't mean every single person there is honest. When you say Mexicans deal with drugs, it doesn't mean everybody in Mexico is a peddler. So I think we should start looking inward and be stop blaming the US and press or the media for giving us a bad name. The 80+ people who have been accused of this scam and fraudulent behaviors should not define Nigeria. That's a good thing to say. But if you look at it more critically, it's more like a symptom of a problem that is more fundamental. So there are still people who have been identified for the means of prosecuting Nigeria. So from the company tampering with the expiry date of their product, to the market woman and market man who is trying to adjust the goal they use in selling product, to the man who is trying to forward receipts for different things they haven't done, including when you even go to some government agency, even though you follow the process. We see instances where people have to use of certificates, and we don't know who are the people producing the certificates after you've already crucified whoever got the certificate. I got it, very licensed for my car, even though I went through the original process through the government agency. But there are people there who were producing those fake things. I got a free driver as well, even though I went to the ministry. So the point is, if we have a society where we are basically accepting bad behavior and lies and scams, sometimes we even pray those behaviors as people that
Okay, Mr. Oyedele, we'll come back to it.
So there are millions of people who commit fraudulent activities on a daily basis within Nigeria. They do not have the wherewithal and the sophistication to do this.
Okay, Mr. Oyedele, I will just halt you in a moment. The connection seems to be very poor.
Yeah, I am now.
Mr. Oyedele, I will halt you in a moment. The connection seems to be very poor. Let's see if we can reconnect you, or if the network can be better. In fact, I don't know what's wrong with network this morning. Even my phone, one of the lines was not even working. So I don't know what exactly is happening. If it's me or
hacked.
One has to be very careful now. All right, you've heard Mr. Oyedele, and he brought in a very interesting perspective.
Yeah.
When you want to even go seek for a driver's license, some people are on the side trying to, defraud the system, and you have a lot of Nigerians that even have fake driving licenses or other kind of certification. But he also said that the image of the country should not be damaged by just about 80 plus or whatever people. He also did talk about the symptoms of it. How much of this deals with perhaps other symptoms? Because a lot of people are also different school of thoughts. Poverty, the government is not doing what it should do. That's why young men and women are going into crime. The social fabric and the moral fabric of the country is no longer there. You will see perhaps for parents that are supposed to be taking care of their children, as you even see hawkers on the streets. A child of 7, 8, 9 that should be in school is hawking and bring back the money to the parents. So you see that young men or adolescents, children are going into crime, doing yahoo or whatever thing they want to do, and they bring the money back to the family, and the father or the mom or the relatives do not even ask you where you got the money, and they know that that person is not working, and he or she buys cars, builds houses, and these are celebrated. So how do you now calibrate all of this? Just like you said, that there are symptoms.
The first thing when I declared that I was going to run for president, the first thing that my parents did were to ask me, "Oh, but what's in the apple now? Where did you get the money from?" And then I had to sit them down to say, okay, look, this declaration is for the majority of the Nigerian people to rally around what we want to do to push a project. That's the kind of growing up that most of us had. And this is what is missing in the current society. Everybody wants to blow. People just want to get out there and make it and become, so I think that for me, looking at the way the discussion has gone, whether it is enough for us to characterize Nigeria to be a fraudulent nation, I think it's neither here or there, simply because of the fact that we've been living with this baggage for a long time. You can see it's not just this particular event. There are a series of events that brought us where we are today, that the country is being called all manner of names. Yesterday, we saw G7 group meeting in France. Where was the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? He was on his way to China, to Japan.
We are not among the industrialized nations. G7 is a group of industrialized nations.
Yes, Nancy, G7 is, and G7 invited some developing countries. The President of Senegal was there. The President of Rwanda was there. So what happened to your own president?
He
was on his way to Shinzo Abe, who was at the G7.
He had a meeting, a bilateral meeting with Trump.
My point is that next tomorrow, which is Wednesday, the first Federal Executive Council meeting that will kickstart the second term of President Muhammadu Buhari will be meeting with the president missing. We're giving priorities to things that, to me, are not important, and because of all of these
but
things...
But the vice president will be there.
The vice president should have been the one in Japan. Why the president be here? Because if you look at the structure of Nigerian government, the vice president would only hold brief, and when the president comes, he have to be given... So what happens between now and next week? Nothing, governance is nowhere to be found. But that's not what we are even discussing, right? We're talking about the corporate image, the image of the president, but the image of the government, and which the president represents. The president is the number one brand maker, brand image that the world see. What is the view? What are the views of the president about the country that we have? If the president sees the country to be a country of fraudulent people, corrupt people, all kinds of things that as he is in Japan, you can be sure that next week we'll have one news item because of the words of the president that he will use in Japan.
Okay, let's see. Is Mr. Oyedele there? And let's see if he shares your views. Mr. Oyedele, I hope the network is better now. And let's take a look at how perhaps some companies have been reacting. What have you been hearing from companies, especially located in Nigeria, since Dynamics Intelligence brought out, a statement that people should leave Nigeria, and in fact, if they want to, instead of doing business with Nigeria, they should do business with Indian-owned companies. What do you think? Mr. Oyedele, are you there? Okay.
I can hear.
Oh, okay. Okay, seems Mr. Oyedele can hear me. Let's try to reconnect him again and see if he can hear us. So what would you say about the question that I just asked?
No, because, you see, these things are, it's just like a man who wants to, okay, Oyedele is back on.
Okay, yes.
It's the line
Mr. Oyedele. Okay, Mr. Oyedele, your line isn't smooth at all. Your line isn't smooth at all, and I'm regretting that this morning. That is not smooth. But let's continue.
Okay. So here is what I think. I think that for someone who wants to marry a woman, you first of all go to the house. They tell you, check the background of that family. Now, and there's something that people always say, okay, don't marry from the house of thieves. Even if it is just one person you have in that place who is a thief. Why? Because it's very easy to brand a group of people and say this is who they are because of the activities of certain group of people. And once this label is given to you, it becomes very difficult for you to peel off. Now, it's not like the world cannot do without Nigeria. Let us not get that. Let's not overpump ourselves and think that Nigeria is too important for the rest of the world. The world can do it. In fact, the only thing that the world is basically concerned about is that we don't become a nuisance to them. Unfortunately, that is the situation. And so, if it gets to the point where we would have to be cut off, you can imagine the kind of humiliation that Nigerians are being subjected to when they want to travel outside the country. You want to apply for visa, you are being treated like... So, this thing, the companies that are saying, oh no, we can't continue to do business with Nigeria simply because of these things, they have a very terrible excuse. And if they have that tenable excuse, what do we then need to do? That's the point I want us to focus on. What can the president and the federal cabinet do immediately to address and arrest this situation? At this time, it's a national crisis because for one company that shut down, even if it is just 20 people that company has employed, you are adding to our unemployment.
Now, let's take a look at, for those watching us and you want to join the conversation, you can join us on all our social media platforms. Like I said earlier, you can tweet at me at Nancy Ilo. On Twitter, Moneyline AIT, drop your comments. Also, Facebook with their Moneyline with Nancy. And on YouTube, you can also watch previous editions. This edition would also be uploaded. And for those of you that are upwardly mobile too, you can watch us online. You can watch us on Twitter as we're streaming live, official AIT live. So tell a friend to tell a friend. When you go to YouTube, click that subscribe button. You know, that's symbol that is like a bell. Just click it so that you can definitely get notifications from the program. Now, what do we do at this point? Because you've been talking about, let's take a look at the solutions. Let me start from the EFCC angle, because like I said, there are a lot of facets to this. The EFCC angle, the national branding or the image thing, perhaps NOA also comes into all of this, if NOA is even still effective, as it were. You also have from the government, how should they address this? Abike Dabire Rewa did mention, did speak just a few days ago, that Nigerians shouldn't be labeled with this crime. However, it's still an alleged crime, they should also go and clear their names. So in all those facets, what should we do?
Okay, so here is the thing. You don't, unfortunately, you don't tell the world what to do about how they perceive you. You can, as much as try to brand yourself and say, well, I'm not this, I am not this, but it is up to them to define how they see you or how they want to accept you.
Okay. Mathias, I will halt you. Let's try as much as possible to reconnect. I'm being told perhaps Mr. Oyedele is back. Let's hope. We're always striving on hope too much in this country. Mr. Oyedele, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You know, I don't know what is wrong with the network, you know, but okay, let me have your view, because we've really talked quite a lot here. What do you think should be the solutions to all of this? Because just like we said, we shouldn't all be labeled with crime. Those that are involved in romance scams, they break the heart of women and they also break their pockets. Or those that are involved with business email compromise. For example, there is a guy in the United States that created Hotspot app. His name is Chinedu Echerio, if I'm correct, yes. He's a Nigerian-born tech expert. He built that app and sold it to Apple, I think, for $1 billion US dollars. That's a Nigerian making us proud. So what should we do at this point? Just like Mathias has said, it should be a matter of national emergency.
Yes. So I think the most important thing is, you know, we can't talk our way out of this bad reputation if we acted ourselves into it. So we also have to act ourselves out of it. I think there are fraudulent people in all the countries around the world. Benny Madoff, one of the biggest scams
in the US citizen,
happened in the US.
Yes.
So, but the difference is that in Nigeria, there seems to be a general acceptance of fraudulent behavior, and also from government not doing enough to tackle it. So this is in Nigeria where you welcome convicts after they have been convicted of stealing public treasury, and then we welcome them back with celebration and thanksgiving. So those things send the wrong messages. So Nigeria has to take a step first to do a reorientation of the people so that we start focusing again on values of hard work, of integrity and honesty.
True. And
government should also try and pass an unexplained wealth order like they already have in the UK. So if you have wealth that you cannot explain, then we should take that wealth from you. So we start telling people that you have to be able to only brag about the money you've made legitimately, not some unexplained sources of wealth from stolen money or scams.
What actually is the difference between what allegedly these guys have done in the US or they do every other place? Because I'm talking about Nigeria now. I'm not talking about Mexico drugs. What is the difference between Nigerians that have been alleged to have committed crimes, this financial fraud in excess of millions and billions of dollars? What is the difference between those kind of people and corrupt people that we know that they are supposedly corrupt here? Perhaps they are also giving officers, just like you said, that there should be a change of the value system. Because people will say, they are all the same thing. There was a president, but was it not President Jonathan that said stealing is stealing, or
it's not corruption.
Or stealing is not corruption. So you see all of that, you know, into the fabric of, I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, indeed. You know, of course, of the 200 million Nigerians, you probably have more than 90% of them that are honest. But you also have quite a large number in millions who are corrupt, and they are stealing every single day. So the only difference between the 88 that have been found out in the US is just the place where they have been found out. So if you want to identify 100,000 in Nigeria today, even in politics alone, you will find them. You don't even need to do any sophisticated intelligence to know that these people have stolen money. But what do we do with them? Some of them we say, oh, they're just suspects. You know, there's no problem. Give them more appointment, appoint them to the cabinet, make them governors, vote for them. We know people who campaign in the last election with money that they cannot explain the sources, yet we voted for them. Majority of voters collected money to be able to vote. Now, this is when it becomes widespread in a society that it's okay to spend the money you cannot explain and we celebrate you. That is the biggest problem we have to solve. Without that, there's nobody who owes Nigeria any obligation or duty to make sure that our image is not dented. It is for us to try and act in a way that people start taking us seriously, not just by talking about it.
Now, on the part of EFCC, Mathias, I'll come back to you. On the part of EFCC, what should be done? For example, the FBI had a 13-month-long investigation for Obi-Wan Okeke before his arrest. He was on his way back to Nigeria from the United States. And, you know, the document circulated all social media last week. 13 months long. That's for FBI. What should the EFCC do? Especially as the EFCC is also saddled with this kind of fighting or combating this kind of crimes.
Yeah. So one thing you see that the FBI has done, of course, apart from doing a very thorough investigation to be able to unearth this kind of big scam, they've also taken steps to try and prevent this from happening by educating the public. One thing I find the EFCC doesn't do well is they're always very reactive. They're not thinking about how can we systematically reduce the incidence of fraud and scam by improving the controls that we have, by educating the public, by blocking the loopholes. Today, and this is the reason why they did it, block that. Let it be that we are dealing with a new fraud next time, not the same thing repeating itself. So until we start doing systematic controls to be able to ensure that we clamp down on fraud in Nigeria, I don't think anything will change fundamentally. It will not be only EFCC. EFCC will play a role. So also is the federal government, the state government, and the public society. Everybody, including individual Nigerians, have to play their own part. If you see something, you say something. Don't condone it. Sometimes we are not the ones that are fraudulent, but we allow others to be fraudulent and we pretend like nothing has happened.
And it affects the rest or remaining Nigerians. Perhaps he also said something, because this would also affect even online transactions. Exactly. Check out what happened with Jumia last week, online transactions and also travel. But let me come to you, Mr. Oyedele, just hang on a bit. Let me come to you quickly, even as we do wrap up. A lot of people have also blamed perhaps the value system. What do you have to say about this? Because the value system has a lot of strata, you know, in terms of even educational, even entertainment, for example. The entertainment industry has also been accused, specifically perhaps the music industry, have been accused that such kind of bad behaviors are always encouraged and exalted. For example, was it, who sang that song? Yahooze, I think, Lumentain. Then we saw Maga Don't Pay from Kelly Handsome. You see, this kind of things, was it Naira Marley that was arrested and charged? I think his case is in court. Am I a Yahoo boy? And all of that. Would you also blame the music industry for doing that? Isn't it a reflection of what is happening? Or should there be a kind of censorship, you know? I'm talking about values now.
I think that, yes, you know, recalibrating our value system is important. It's extremely, is extremely important. Being able to also have a comprehensive system that can control and be able to monitor activities of individuals, citizens of this country. It's one thing that I find very interesting. Now, you have EFCC in almost all the states. You get an unusual lodgement into your account. This money is flagged. Your bank calls you up and say, we have this money into your account. Can you give us information about where these funds are coming from? And then you tell them, oh, it's a contract project, and it's allowed to come in. Now, if we can have a system that monitor the whole of Nigerian transactions as it goes on, how then are these kind of things, are they escaping us to the point where people are going to continue to fraudulently carry on with their lives, live large to get some kind of recognition, and we will not know about it? Okay. I think that, for me, the solution that would be having an EFCC system that is proactive, and having a system where most of these funds actually comes through account. Having a system where every single transaction that comes into this country is being reported and questions are being asked, even if it is just automatic emails that will be generated to you to say, oh, we saw this from you, and if there is no response from you, there is going to be, it's going to be
lastly, Mr. Oyedele, in just a few seconds, how would you wrap up, since even the fraud industry, I'll call it an industry now, the fraud industry is even evolving. It's evolved from even romance scams. You see people, men masquerading as women, or women masquerading as men to fall in love and squeeze some kind of dollars from who they want to squeeze it from. What should we do at this point, very quickly?
Yeah, I think every single person, organizations, government at all levels must take this very seriously if we want to continue to have a country we can call our own and that we can be proud of. Let us stop celebrating people who have wealth we cannot explain the sources, and government, more importantly, must take steps to demonstrate to the rest of the world, not just by saying, to demonstrate that we do not condone fraud or scam or stealing, by holding to account people who currently have various allegations against them and bring them into justice. And we should stop celebrating convicts that have stolen our money, our commonwealth. If we go back to the days of celebrating values, then we'll see a transformation in the way Nigeria is perceived, because this will have significant impact for the business community, for Nigerians traveling abroad to do honest businesses, and for everybody generally. So we have to address it urgently.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oyedele. It's such a huge topic that has different facets, you know. It's not something I can finish in one edition, but let's just take the last 1 minute of the program to take comments. Hilary says the Nigerian brand has been partly damaged and the onus lies on all of us and sundry to do the needful and rebrand our image. Wise on Twitter says we need a national rebate and rethinking. Nasiru Aliyu says, Mr. Tsado, PMB trip, President Muhammad Buhari trip to Japan is to bring more investors to Nigeria to create more jobs. If PMB is not around, the VP can treat memos and the council. Nnaji says to tackle cyber crimes like every other crime is the creation of jobs. There's so much joblessness due to lack of industries and inadequate training of youngsters. Lawrence says by creating better jobs for youth, by paying our criminal politicians less salaries. So many comments. Nancy, moral meltdown, greed, laziness, attitude of entitlement, and money worshipping. That's the much you can take on this edition. Thank you all for sending your tweets. Thank you, Mathias, Tsado.
I just think that many Nigerians keep online keep saying things that are fantastic, but we don't know who are the ones committing this crime.
All right. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you
Mr. Oyedele, thank you also for joining me on the show. I know I had to pull you out from a meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.